Disney pays itself for every movie it does. So at the end of the day, Disney is not making money on this. They might have an LLC, like Hidden Heart Productions, the one that owns Snow White, and they're not even going to really do it under that one. It's going to be other Disney distribution. They might have an LLC that'll show somewhere a positive return, based on streaming and PVOD or whatever else. It's not good. It's still going to show a loss. But the point is, it's coming from another Disney bank account. It's coming from another Disney ledger. It's fake. Yeah. So when I tell you this movie is still on pace to lose $300+ million, it's because it will.
Renegade Online.
Deadline came out with this article. I covered it, I think, Wednesday or last week, whatever it was. Deadline came out with this article where D'Alessandro did this breakdown. He rarely does on these kind of films where he's like, look, I'm talking to distribution sources and this is what they think that the movie's going to do with PVOD and all this. So the article breaks it down to where Snow White's only going to lose $115 million. Now, I did a video explaining how this was just laughably stupid and wrong. At the same time, it's right based on how he did the math, but it's not real money. And this is now getting picked up by everybody else. Deadline does this article, and everybody's running around basically covering Disney's butt by trying to suggest the movie's only going to lose $115 million. Now, what they don't really do is they don't, just like when it comes to Caroline Reed's reporting in Forbes, they don't read the article. They don't understand half of what she's said in there because all they look at the headline is this, Snow White cost $270 million. And I have to keep telling people, no, that's what it cost up through December 31st of 2023, 16 months ago. That's not what Snow White cost. That's like we're still missing over a year's worth of extra money spent. It's going to be another $100 million. I said, but here's the thing, and they're doing the same thing here with this one, with that Deadline article, right? And this is from Sunday Times, okay? So not a small potatoes publication. But they go through this saying, oh, well, we add this in, we add that in. Okay, first of all, part of this number, this $115 million, was Deadline presuming that Snow White would finish its box office run at $225 million. Does anybody think 225 is on the table still? No. I don't. We're now talking about it might not even be 200, right? We did that part earlier. Yeah. Now let's add into the fact that based on the $225 million assumed completed box office for this turd, that they were going to be able to turn around, and I thought this was hilarious, and sell $62 million back to Disney, net sales back to Disney after they paid iTunes and everybody else. $62 million, Tom, in PVOD and physical media combined.
And that's not the worst.
I love it when they do that. Sorry.
That's not the worst thing they pulled.
Well, no, it gets worse. We're getting there. Now, the thing is that what you have to understand why that 62 million figure is so ridiculous and so stupid is because the same week that somebody probably he talked to at Disney, this is probably somebody at Disney distribution telling Anthony D'Alessandro this. I'm not blaming Anthony D'Alessandro at all. This is the information he was given.
You're nicer than I.
Well, here's the thing. 62 million, okay, again, because he says, according to distribution sources I spoke to, 62 million PVOD and physical media for a movie that is not even going to do $200 million at the box office. And for a movie that is going to be on Disney Plus for free to the entire demographic audience that this movie serves. They already all have Disney Plus. It's going to be on Disney Plus 2 weeks after it's on PVOD. Then the same week, Universal Studios comes out and says, hey, by the way, we did $100 million on PVOD and physical media sales for Wicked. Like sold, not a projection, money in the bank. And Wicked did over $700 million globally and had all the hit music that everybody wanted to sing. Universal said we did $100 million in PVOD and physical. Does anybody think that Snow White's going to do 62 with a quarter of the box office and nobody talking about this movie again?
No, because let me explain to you what they're doing here. This is where Mikey explains that this is basically, the ex-girlfriend going crazy with the credit card, right? Mm-hmm. Let me give you another example of this. This is basically the parent who buys the kids cookies for the Girl Scouts, buys them all up and says, my girl sold the most Girl Scout cookies.
Exactly. It's your own daughter you bought the cookies for.
Right, and that's the next part.
That's exactly what they're doing. Yes.
Yeah, and one of the things, and I don't know if it's in this Sunday Times piece, but the biggest whopper in here. So the 62 million, it's probably not going to be 20 to 30 million dollars. Let's be realistic of what comes back to Disney. Maybe 40 if they're super lucky. But the other number on there is that it's going to do, get ready for it, $130 million in streaming and television revenue.
I was a good boy and didn't blow this one because this is the whopper of all whoppers.
This is and where is it going to be streaming, gentlemen?
Disney Plus. That's
on Disney Plus.
That was my analogy right there. Yes.
That's it. I mean, this is, once again, this is Disney swiping the Disney Plus credit card that is $10 billion, almost literally $10 billion in debt since 2019, cumulatively. They are going to swipe that Disney Plus credit card again and take the $130 million. This is what I did in the video this week. This is the difference. Let me show everybody. I'll do the bit again. Let me show you what Disney does. Disney says, I have $40. And then they say,
I'm so glad you're doing this.
They said, okay, well, now that Snow White has concluded its box office run, it's going to go to streaming. So in this hand, we've got Disney Plus, and in this hand, we've got Snow White. Both hands are owned by Disney. And Disney says, okay, Snow White just made $20.
Well, let me do it a little bit
Disney,
better than that.
Wait a minute, but Disney still has only $40. Do you understand?
Yes.
It's the same $40. Now,
the other way of doing it, yeah, never mind. You did it better, so never mind.
Well, there's one more.
Avatar. I can't compete with him.
This is the difference. I'm Sony or Universal. I have $40. My movie just got out the theater. Netflix comes in and says, give me your movie for streaming. Now they have $60.
Yep.
They made money. This is the difference. Remember when Warner Brothers, or no, it was The Rock. The Rock came out and said, oh, Black Adam's going to make money. It's fine. And we were like, wait, what? And then we figured out it's because, of course, Warner Brothers was going to pay itself to stream its own movie. So on paper, the Black Adam, the company that made whatever legal entity they formed for the production of Black Adam, oh yeah, it made $100 million from streaming, but ultimately that was Warner Brothers paying itself. This is Disney pays itself for every movie it does. So at the end of the day, Disney is not making money on this. They might have an LLC, like Hidden Heart Productions, the one that owns Snow White, and they're not even going to really do it under that one. It's going to be other Disney distribution. They might have an LLC that'll show somewhere a positive return, based on streaming and PVOD or whatever else. It's not good. It's still going to show a loss. But the point is, it's coming from another Disney bank account. It's coming from another Disney ledger. It's fake. Yeah. So when I tell you this movie is still on pace to lose $300+ million, it's because it will.
You're not supposed to tell that, Valiant.
Well,
you're not supposed to tell that.
What you were talking about with Warner Brothers earlier, that's exactly how they got into the mess they got into and why they had to basically have Zaslav and Discovery come in and try and bail them out, right? Because they had just decimated their studio by pushing everything to HBO Max. And they lost all their directors and creatives behind the scenes because they're like, screw you, we're not playing this game anymore. Yeah. They basically crippled them.
That's what happened with Nolan. He's like, I want to put my movie out in the theaters. They're like, sorry, sir. People are going to have to go watch Tenet on Max.
Disney just has other ways of hiding it and other ways of saving face through taking money from one place and putting it to another. And that was brilliant, that whole thing. I'm sorry I interrupted you there. That was.
Don't they also won't they get taxed on those purchases too, even if it's moving from one column to another?
Yeah, but it's probably
not collectively.
Okay.
Yeah,
not really.
They have ways of getting that's where we need Mikey to come in and explain it. But yeah, that's where they move shit around in shells and everything.
So again, at the end of the day, you've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different little LLCs and things like this that are wholly owned subsidiaries in one lineage or another from the master corporation, the Walt Disney Company, right? So absolutely, every one of those little separate LLCs that Disney has, all these little operational businesses, every one of them has to file a tax return at the end of the year. But eventually, they're going to report all the losses and everything else, the collectively that Disney owns, all comes up through the same pipe. It all goes right through the treasurer's office and right on to the earnings report for Disney. And that's kind of the point, is that, yes, you'll have, like Disney Plus is still losing money. I'm so tired of seeing these stupid earnings reports. Well, DTC is making a profit. No, Hulu's making a profit.
Yep.
I guarantee you Disney Plus is still pretty deep in the hole. And Hulu's profits are basically covering up for what Disney Plus is not doing, the failures.
We never
because they don't
use
report
Disney
them separately.
Plus. We never use Disney Plus. We use Hulu all the time.
Yep.
And was it Pro on your show, or was it a different show I was talking about this, where basically, like, this is something that the creatives and a bunch of other people have been arguing about for years. And I mean, I'm talking like decades, where they're not happy about how the studios don't have to actually report the video sales the same way they do the box office.
Mm-hmm.
Was that your show we were talking about that on, or was it a different? I might even been having a personal conversation with somebody. It's been a long
I remember you and I have talked about that before.
You and I have too. And it's like this whole thing where, like, because that's another thing too, where they hide a lot of either losses or gains, right? Because this is the thing that they love to do, is it all depends on who's asking, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's the press asking or somebody they got to impress, then the movie made more money than any movie could have ever made in the history of making movies. But if it's somebody they could possibly have to owe money to, like a writer, a creative, or something on the back end, it's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Didn't make
lost
any
so
money.
It's a
much
totally
money,
different
it will
accounting
never
system.
make money ever again. Like,
Yeah.
and it is. It's a completely two different separate things that they do, to where we've had situations where movies will make more on video, obviously, than they do in the theaters. And we don't know. We don't have exact numbers on a lot of this stuff because they don't have to report it the same way that they do the other stuff. And I know you and I were having that conversation maybe in private, Valiant, but I'm trying to remember. I think there was a stream I was on that we were.
Oh, I'm pretty sure
about
we've
it,
discussed that on a stream somewhere
maybe.
before. Yeah.
You know, Valiant had such a cool thing where he's able to pass his dollars from hand to hand. And I really can't do that because I've got frozen shoulder in both sides. But I've got the brand new Pros action figure equation. And it needs a song intro like Pros action figure equation. I don't know. Think about it this way, ladies and gentlemen. There will be more Jack Black as Steve, Fatty McFatterson action figures sold than Rachel Zegler Snow White dollies.
Oh, we already know that.
Well,
Did you see? I mean, in the Deadline article, the one that this one is referencing, and again, I brought this up because I want to show you how this is how lies and BS get spread. It started at Deadline. Now you've got all these other things. You can go to Apple News. Oh, Disney's only going to lose $115 million. No, they are not. Again, if you add in the $130 million that Disney's really not making, it's going to pay itself for this. And then if you add in the fact that $62 million for PVOD sales, which again, those have not happened yet. It's not available on PVOD. Every dollar of that is a pie in the sky bullcrap projection number. I guarantee it won't happen. You add those two things back in, guess where you're at? You're at about a $300 billion loss. Okay, just for the record, we're at $300 million of loss, just like I told you. So in a roundabout way, they agree with me. But what's crazy is in the original Deadline article, you know what one of the revenue pieces were for this movie? $2 million in toy sales. $2 million, not 20, to Disney. Back to Disney from toy sales for Zegler Snow White stuff.
That's not much.
Exactly. It's nothing. It's not 20, not 200. Like when Hasbro and Paramount, we're putting out a Transformer movie every couple of 2 or 3 years, and it boosted Transformer sales by $200 or $300 million a year. 2 million. Yeah. 2 million.
I can't believe that little girls aren't buying Farquaad wigs and nobody's picking up the scratch and sniff dirty hippies.
Well,
I mean, they haven't found a really strong way to get comic book sales up from comic book movies either. So
no.
Well, that's because the comic books don't reflect what the movies are. That's why. Yep. And kids don't really play with toys that much outside of younger kids maybe now. But that's where I know like the Minecraft thing was always popular, and I wouldn't be surprised if it still worked. And that's where I was talking about earlier, because merchandising is a big deal. If $2 million is all they got in merchandising deals, that's it.
Yeah, well, between sales and whatnot, that's all according to Anthony D'Alessandro, who was citing a distribution source that you have to presume is somebody at Disney in distribution. That's the figure he reported in the Deadline article.
Why Tangled? $2 million. You know why they canceled Tangled? Because all of Tangled's product lines probably got canceled on them. That's why.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.